Welcome everyone to our build session where we're going to cover what's new with Snowflake Native Apps Framework. We're going to talk about how to unlock software as a service efficiency using our latest native apps capabilities. I'm super excited to be here. I'm Eduardo Laureano. I'm a product manager in our Snowflake application platform, and I'm here with...
Thank you, Eduardo. My name is Shruti. I am a senior product manager at Snowflake on the applications team as well. So what are we going to talk today? We are going to talk about a lot of exciting stuff. But first, to begin with, we'll go through a quick synopsis of what native application has to offer from a consumer point of view. Eduardo then will be talking through a bunch of examples and a demo that will kind of open up the eyes around like what our providers have been doing today. And then finally, we'll be touching upon all the exciting work that our team has been doing to get this framework, more exciting for our consumers as well as providers. So let's get into the first part. Redefining B2B software delivery. So if you think about a typical SaaS timeline from a consumer point of view, from discovery to actually procuring and using the application can take anywhere from 3 months to a year, depending on the application complexity. In most of our cases with consumers, we have seen a significant drop down on that, and it goes down to almost a period of a month. So how does that drop happen? What are the angles of optimization here that comes with native applications? Let's get into it. So these significant drop down can pretty much be categorized into 3 parts. The first one is the legal and compliance review. Traditionally, legal and compliance review can take anywhere from weeks to months. But if you build on Snowflake native applications, these processes get much more streamlined for you. The legal review with the data remaining in Snowflake account just reduces a lot of legal burden or back and forth that would happen if you would have gone with a typical SaaS model. Not to mention our Snowflake Horizon built-in governance compliance coverage. It also reduces the compliance review timelines. And thus, if you would have gone through a typical SaaS model, it could have taken you months. Now it comes down into a range of couple of weeks. The second category where we reduce this timeline is around configuration and implementation. The infrastructure configuration, the traditional setups, the huge headache of, building the entire infrastructure, configuring tenancy, all of that is a very cumbersome process and again can go beyond month as well. With Snowflake native application, this process is very streamlined. It can almost come down to 1 hour to 1 day, depending on your application complexity. And what actually simplifies it is that this whole creation of databases, compute pools, all of that stuff is very seamless when you come to Snowflake. And the final part is the non-disruptive update on the customer side. Traditionally, upgrade rollouts of new version of apps can take hours to day, and sometimes they can be disruptive. In case of Snowflake native apps, none of that gets involved. There is no downtime for app users, and it is as seamless as it can get. So if you have to think from a feature fuel, what are the features that is fueling your app adoption from discovery to monitoring and upgrading? We have a slew of features that simplify this whole process. If you think about discovery, we have universal search, which is going GA, which helps with the whole discovery process for consumers to find your application. There's a huge amount of traffic that is using our Snowflake marketplace, which just helps the whole discoverability model of your application. Then consumers also have Snowflake trial accounts where they can go and play with these applications. As I mentioned in my previous slide, because there is no data movement and with a slew of features around Snowflake Horizon, the whole legal and compliance review process becomes very seamless. And that also leads to the ease of procurement process. But there's another angle that we offer in procurement, which is called as marketplace capacity drawdown, which our capacity customers can use in order to ease out their whole procurement costing billing processes as well. And then finally, the implementation, configuration, and the monitoring and upgrade, as I touched upon my previous slide, is very smooth with Snowflake infrastructure and non-disruptive upgrades in place. So if I have to summarize the top 3 consumer benefits of choosing Snowflake native application, it all comes down to faster evaluation and procurement with simplified legal processes and MCDs in place, secure processing of your data. The consumers can remain tension free because the data is not leaving their environment, and there are just more ways to pay with the MCD. So if you take even a step back, what does it look like in case of native apps versus a traditional SaaS model? With growing complexity of applications, your time to go from POC to delivery will go on increasing exponentially with a SaaS application framework. Versus with growing complexity and sensitivity of your consumer data, it remains flat in most cases for Snowflake native applications. And that, my dear friends, is the value of using Snowflake Native Application Framework. Off to you, Eduardo.
All right, super exciting stuff. I love all that Shruti is saying. And I want to flip back over and just make some of this concrete and show that in action. So we have, most of you are probably familiar with our Snowflake marketplace. And this value that Shruti said for consumers, it's right here at your fingertips. As you browse through the marketplace, you can find a wide range of apps that you could use to solve real business problems. I'm going to scroll down so you can see some of them that are here, and that's not even touching the surface of all that's available to you. And once you're ready to adopt any of these apps, you can go right here in the marketplace and do that. So that's why I want to show you. So I have one here that I think shows a little bit of the power, which is called the cart. It's a web map API. So imagine that you have data that's available in your warehouses, in your Snowflake account, and you want to visualize that with a really rich map. So we have an app for that. We have an app for a lot of things. This is just one of them. I want to show you the steps it takes for you to start adopting. So right here, you have the app. We talk about the business model. We talk about you can name your application. And if you're ready to try, you click try for free, or you could go ahead and buy. We're going to try it together. So I start the try of the app, and that's going to install the app on my account. One of the values of the Native Apps framework is this app is going to run in my account in an isolated way. So what's happening here is that this app is being installed on my particular account that's unique to me and to the users in my company. And just like that, we have our app now installed on my account. Now let's configure it. So you stay here in context in Snowsite. And one principle of native apps is our data governance. You as a consumer, you are in control of everything an app can do in your account. So the privileges is something you can review. So this is a powerful application, and we'll talk more about this because it has containers and compute pools that work with you, as well as creates its own warehouse. And it talks to an external endpoint. You can grant all these privileges right here, and I'm going to grant that right now. And now the app's ready to perform all these operations like managing compute pools. Now it's a map app, so it needs to talk to a map API. You can review that connection because it's going to talk to an external endpoint. You see what that connection looks like. You can optionally name that connection and connect to it. So quickly it's going to connect. It's going to allow the app to talk to the external source. Finally, you configured all of it. Now the app can really instantiate all it needs. So I'm going to click activate here. What's really happening under the hoods is creating that warehouse that we allowed permissions to. It's creating compute pools. It's instantiating the service. Once this is all ready, we can go ahead and launch this app and see it in action. Because this can take a couple minutes, for demo purpose, I'll fast forward to launching the app. And here we are. We now have our app page. This app is ready to be launched. Few things before I even launch the app is that are really cool is the app can be observed, right? Like the provider that built this app can observe the consumer. You can enable events to go back to provider, something we're going to talk more about later. Anything we connected to, it's right here and it's explicit so you can see what it connects to. Any compute that has been provisioned, the number of nodes, the type of compute, it's all here as well. So again, consumers fully control, full visibility, everything's happening. Next thing we're going to do is actually launch the app. So I'm going to enter credentials. Okay, so now I launched the endpoint. I'm right here. I'm on the cart's map app, and you can see this is obviously app with a rich UI. This is building React, JavaScript framework, and I can start using this. I can run a sample query that comes right out of the box with the app. It does give me the instructions that I need to grant privileges. I already have some data that will be able to plot here on this map some data points. So I'm going to give that grant that privilege to access that data. So once I run this query is actually pretty simple. It's going to show all the restaurants around the world, and it's going to just plot them on the map. So while that typically, if you had any normal app and you had that data, if you didn't have a native app to do this, it's going to be quite complicated for you to implement this from scratch. But by just going to the marketplace, downloading, configuring the data, it's working privately in your own account, a real rich map application. Now let me go back over to the slides. So there's much more you can do than what you've seen in the demo. There are things like these apps, obviously, they incur some costs in terms of provider costs, Snowflake infrastructure costs, and you can monitor all these costs in Snowflake infrastructure from an app. An app could have a warehouse like that app or a compute pool. So all these resources in the aggregate you can monitor. You can set your spending limits, and automatically you're going to get notifications when you're trending towards the budget limit you set for your app. Okay, now that I've showed you one app, because we have so much of what I've showed to you today, it's generally available. I want to give you a glance of other things you can do, just a few other examples so you have a sense of the industries that we cover and the type of apps we cover. So one of them that we have is relational AI. Tons of companies need graph databases to enhance their business and provide really rich analytics. That's what Relation AI gives to you, and you can see here an actual customer quote covering that. We also have landing lands. So we have a full-on computer vision, the latest and greatest of AI running right here on native apps. Landing lands works in different industries, manufacturing and healthcare, and makes full use of the Snowflake Native Apps Framework as well as Snowpark Container Services. And here's another quote of a customer that's using it and what business problem was able to solve for them. And one more, just to cover different range of types of applications, Kumo. Kumo does predictive AI, also using machine learning models, runs on top of GPUs, all privately on your data to give really rich business insight on data that's on your data warehouse and insights of core relationships in your data that you might not even know you had. So really powerful solutions, all of them. Now that I covered some of them, I want to just go back to the framework and tell you all that's new, what powers all of this, what it is that we released recently that allows you to do all this. So I mentioned a little bit the native apps with Snowpark Container Services. And what we do in concrete terms today is we expanded what you can do in terms of expressing your logic and your code in a native application. In the past, you could use Snowpark and you can still do at the runtime. Now you can bring anything that you can package as a standard Docker container to your native application. You package that, define those as services or jobs. It gets materialized into the consumer account in the form of compute pools. Wide range of types of compute pools you could have, CPU, high memory CPU, or GPUs, and that all runs privately in the consumer account, all within their control. So that allows for tons of possibilities that you've seen. Particularly, what you have is, aside from the compute pool management service and jobs that I said, is applications can dynamically instantiate services by using spec templates. They can have custom UIs like the one you've seen in the demo. You can integrate the whole container building process with your standard dev tooling. All your services are observable. Events can be shared back. You can use those containers to actually instantiate block storage and have them represent some storage that your application might need. And you can talk to other services using our external access integration. Now, not only, I want to go back to this list of apps because not only we have those apps, they're ready for production usage. And you can see the ones here on the left. They already have proven the platform, used by multiple customers, and now they're ready for anyone to use and really rely some of your business needs on these apps on a regular basis. Now I want to flip it back over to Shruti to talk about even more goodness we have on the framework.
Thank you, Eduardo. That was one impressive demo and all the amazing features that we have in terms of making the platform flexible and more usable for our providers and consumers. So continuing on that journey, one of the core personas that we touch upon, who is, developer, who is actually trying to author, build the applications. So we are very excited to announce the Snowflake CLI GA. What comes with this GA is a lot of goodness around managing your applications. For example, with the new GA feature, there are enhancements where you can use a single Snowflake YAML file to deploy applications that share part of their code bases with minimal duplication. Imagine if you have two applications, one is free, one is paid, and they share a lot of similar code bases. Well, with this GA, you'll be able to use it in a much more efficient way. We also try to meet developers where they are. And what this really means is integrating into the toolings that you have. So we are very excited to announce the public preview for VS Code integrations. With this whole public preview, you can now view native apps projects in your VS Code. It can validate the structure of your YAML files and manifest in the VS Code. So you can literally author them, edit them right there. And you can also run the different commands that came with Snowflake CLI because Snowflake CLI now integrates into the Visual Studio Code as well. We also have much more goodness coming in terms of developer experience. There is this whole GitHub Actions and Azure DevOps integration, which is now integrated into the CLI as well, which helps with your outer loop or more of a CI/CD DevOps integration processes for your deployment. Moving on to the next part of the journey, observability is a key feature that impacts both consumer and providers. It is very much needed for a faster troubleshooting use case. And thus, we are very excited to announce the event sharing GA, which helps both provider and consumers. So now providers can actually define mandatory and optional log collection categories, which in turn is visible to consumers. And consumers have much more control where they can define the role that can basically authorize the managing of event sharing. And also, from both provider and consumer angle, they will have access to what data is being shared, tracked, and by whom is it being shared and tracked as well. So all in all, it gives you a quick, easy way to troubleshoot with much more finer grade control and a lot of visibility around it. In terms of further enhancing security and compliance, as we mentioned in our earlier part of the story as well, there's a huge focus on how do we keep our trust, our marketplace more and more enhanced in terms of both of these aspects. So while there's this whole horizon-related initiative, data residency in place, we're also now allowing providers to update their status on the marketplace in case they have received certifications such as SOC 2 and ISO with the compliance badging, which will appear to their consumer. What it really does is it simplifies the procurement process. Most of the strategic customers for providers need such certifications to understand the provider maturity, and knowing that upfront helps the consumer journey. Further, to help enterprise customers who want to consume native apps, we are extending our framework on a lot of other deployments which are highly secure. For example, VPS. We are excited to announce that Snowflake Native Application will be supported on AWS VPS as GA. And we'll also be supporting Private Link, which for AWS, which is going GA, and much more to come in future. Finally, we also want to make this whole journey very cost effective, and thus we are very excited to announce private preview of a new capability of cross-cloud auto-fulfillment that removes the egress cost when sharing data or application to multiple cloud regions, delivering on average 50% cost saving to providers. This really helps gain control over data production delivery costs without sacrificing business from customers on remote cloud regions, reducing the cost of sharing data to multiple parties across clouds with no incremental egress fees. So we briefly touched upon some of the amazing features that our team have been building in order to simplify both the provider and consumer experience. To summarize, there are more features, and some of them are generally available and some of them are in preview. I'm going to quote some of the features that are available in each of the buckets, but the rest are for you to consume from the slide. In terms of developer experience, as I mentioned, Snowflake CLI is in GA. We continue to expand our framework to more and more cloud deployments. Quoting native apps is going to be available in AWS, Azure, GCP to a certain extent. We're also extending the object integrations. Eduardo clearly mentioned that we have NASPCS going GA on AWS. We'll soon have it on Azure and following more on the other clouds. We are also improving our observability story. We kind of touched upon the event sharing framework, which simplifies and streamlines the observability for both providers and consumers, give them more visibility. And we also are investing more and more on consumer experiences, for example, multiple app install and budgets, which Eduardo touched upon in previous slide as well, which helps you get visibility and control around your cost. And there are more features in preview. NA plus SPCS will be going Azure soon. We'll have more object integrations in place. We'll be extending Iceberg and extended external table as part of the native application framework too, and more coming around observability. So that was a lot of content for you all. Hopefully you had fun listening to Eduardo and what I had to share about all the amazing work that our team has been doing, how our consumers have been loving the native applications, and how does it actually simplify between a SaaS versus a native application framework. We are glad that you were able to attend this build demo and looking forward for the future. Thank you.